So today we continue playing non-meta decks because we're out of them. We're playing Machina Shadow today. It's a pretty interesting one. It's one of the rare Machina or Natura decks that don't actually use Nature L Machinas. And going even further, you actually want to run a limited number of Machina followers because of how the deck works. And I think it's generally pretty fun because it has some flexibility in gameplay, whether it's a more tempo-based approach or a control with survive until turn 9 to summon a massive board to overwhelm your opponent game plan. So yeah, let's look at the deck we're playing for today. So this is the deck list we're playing for today. The main, you can see it's very different from the tournament winning list that the Machina Shadow you can find in there. I borrowed this list from a Japanese player, Jasun, whose channel I will link in the description. He plays a lot of Shadow and I think he's pretty familiar with how the class works. So, and I do like playing this deck from watching him and also by playing it myself. So I'd say I prefer this list. The main star of the show is Aenea. Aenea's ability, if you have no allied Roly-Poly in play, she summons one, otherwise put Fleeting Joy in your hand, and does this at the end of every turn. So Roly-Poly is just a 2/2 ward that can't take more than 1 damage at a time, which seems unassuming, but it can sort of snowball your game in your favor, especially if your opponent can't clear Aenea behind it, because she can just summon another one at the end of your turn again, and the opponent has to answer it all over again. And Fleeting Joy is a spell. It has a 5 damage maximum effect, which is useful in some cases against stuff like Zeus or Natura Dragon, but otherwise it's not that useful. And then you have Enhance 9, which is the main star of the show. Randomly put 4 different Machina followers that aren't Aenea from your deck into play. We're only running 4 here. We have the Jack Shallow Gravedigger, who gets Rush and Bane when she gets summoned by an effect. And then we have a Colossal Skulllock, which is just nice board clear. With Mecha Wing Angel, which is the ward, and then He Who Wants Rock, which is Storm, and then last was Reanimate 8 can summon another Mecha Wing Angel for another ward. Yeah, other than the main Machina pieces, we also run a bunch of Yokai Shadow pieces, as you might notice. We have the Miyako here, we have Sarcophagus Wraith, which is a very strong card. Mutant Doji, unlike Hades, this deck doesn't need to save shadows for anything, so you can just spend them as you get them to survive. Yeah, we also have Ceres, which is pretty nice, I guess, and then we have Nightmare Power for clearing board. Ginsetsu is just very strong in this meta in general. And then Shinobu is just a nice little piece who can both help you tempo as well as clear board with her Union Burst. So yeah, this is the list of running for today. Let's look at some games. Our first match here is against Blood and we are going second. Blood is like a somewhat playable matchup, but when you're going second it becomes much harder to win because if you think about when your Enhance 9 hits, it will be after your opponent's turn 8. You can generally, if you try hard enough, you can generally survive 1 post NAM turn from your opponent, but 2 becomes much harder. So for that reason, going second is much harder in this deck than going in this matchup. Sorry, than going first. But in this case, we're going second, so we have to try our best, I guess. Early game, we try to keep cards that draw as well as help answer opponent's aggro, and of course Aenea and Friends Forever are great cards to keep as well. In this case, we go ahead and accelerate He Who Wants Rock. We could have went Ginsetsu to clear one of these, but that wouldn't stop Noin anyway, and if we're thinking about playing Aenea next turn, then we probably want to play Assembly Droid here, because my opponent will hit face, trade, play Noin, and then Noin will summon 2 Assembly Droids, so and then probably clear one of these so we can have our Roly-Poly evolve and trade into Noin. Well, you'll see in a moment, but you'll see that this decision is a bit better for having Roly-Poly work as hard as possible compared to accelerating Ginsetsu here. It's also just better PP value since we're spending 3 instead of just 2 on Ginsetsu. So here we do play the Aenea. And we will evolve the Aenea to get rid of their Noin here. And you'll see that, involve the Roly-Poly to get rid of the Noin, and you see Roly-Poly only take 1 damage. And then we can trade. Our Roly-Poly is still at 2 health, which means that even after trading the Assembly Droid, they still have to deal 1 more damage to our Roly-Poly in order to fully clear it, and there's a chance that Aenea will survive the turn because of that. Which is what we're going for. Unfortunately, they do have Change-Wing Cherub, so Aenea goes down, just not the play-in plan. But we can go ahead and play Friends Forever and just pick up another Aenea off of it, which is very nice. Get a nice buffed Jack Shovel as well. We definitely don't want to let the Revenant Corruption live, and then we can just go ahead and save our Jack Shovel in case we need the Bane. And then we get another Roly-Poly, which hopefully will protect our followers. In this case, they play Unleash the Nightmare. Thankfully, they miss all of their pings, so all of it goes into the Jack Shadow Gravedigger. So our Aenea does live the turn, which is very nice for us. My opponent will just poke into the Roly-Poly here. This is a nice trick. You trade the Roly-Poly up on your own because it's only at 1 health. So when Aenea summons it, it will be a 2 health Roly-Poly, which is much better. So we can go ahead and summon more wards to try to protect our Roly-Poly as well as protect our face in general. There is an argument for saving these wards for after they play Aenea, so I can protect myself from the what's his face, mono turn, but I don't know. I guess I want to protect my Aenea. So here my opponent doesn't have the NAM, which is very fortunate. If my opponent had NAM plus both of their leader effects, I don't think there was any way I was winning anyway. But you can see that we have the Technolog here to clear my board, and then they go ahead and hit me in the face. But thankfully for me, they also lock their own board in the process, so we can just go ahead and pass here. Just make sure we can survive until our Enhanced 9 turn. And once we get that board into play, it's very unlikely my opponent can answer it. So even though we are taking a huge amount of damage here, which is quite risky, we should hopefully be able to come back for it once we hit turn 9. So go ahead and pass again. And then we can go ahead and play the Fleeting Joy here to summon our full board. We have 2 big wards in the way, so we should be able to prevent a mono. And in the first place, they haven't even played NAM yet, which they will play now, I guess. So as long as we don't have all the NAM pings coming to our face, we should be fine here. My opponent goes for the Colossal Skull Lord, I guess, just to stop me from doing that. I guess stop me from clearing that board, but then they play Flame and then they trade into he who wants rock, so he just summons another Colossal Skull Lord. And I think at this point they realize they are dead, so they probably just concede, yeah. And then our next match here is against Shadow, and we're going second. I don't really run into the mirror, so I have no idea how the mirror goes, but generally against other Shadow decks like Hades and Last Words, this is pretty disadvantage. Natura is like near unwinnable unless your opponent doesn't draw Thoth for some reason. Otherwise you just lose on the spot because nothing you do works against Thoth's ability to just keep pinging you for more and more damage. And if it's Hades, it's definitely an uphill battle since once they get a Path to Purgatory active, you don't really have a good way to come back from that. My opponent plays Mecha Wing here, which makes me think it might be Hades. It could also be Machina, but then the Phantasmal Core just seals it. This is definitely going to be Hades. If they drop the second Phantasmal Core, I probably just lose the game here, but oh well. To do trade here, I probably should have just went face honestly, but I guess denying them the target for a Ghoul or a Guild is a decent play. They do just play Grammarly here for the Guild though, so that's fine for them. And they do like half lock our board, but we just go ahead and evolve Shuten Doji while we can. Shuten Doji is actually quite important in this matchup because you need to pressure your opponent's face down so that you can kill them before their PTP kills you. Like realistically, you're never making it to turn 9 in this matchup unless your opponent majorly breaks, so it's not a great idea to rely on the Aenea's Fleeting Joy game plan. Yeah, they use the Ghoul here, and I guess they go for another board lock here by destroying their own Ghoul, which is like fine. Go ahead and poke them in the face here, and then we just use Guild to clear our Sark Wraith and as well as draw more cards and generate some shadows. Pick up Aenea here, which is very nice. We can go ahead and hide some of our stronger followers like the Shuten Doji behind ward. This deck, Hades Shadow, has very bad board clear potential. The best they can do here is accelerate Hades. If they do, they don't clear Shuten Doji and they don't clear my Roly-Poly, so we're fine with that. Unfortunately, they do have the second Phantasmal Core here as well as Jack Shovel Gravedigger, so they will do that. But fortunately for us, we pressured them enough that we will just be able to kill them with the power of Legendary Skeleton. So yeah, that's how this game ends. Go ahead and mill our top deck to get 8 shadows, then we can go ahead and play Legendary Skeleton who gets Storm thanks to Shuten Doji, and that will be enough for lethal. So that's it for this game. So our last match here is going second against Haven. I just realized that all of my games are going second here. It's not that going second is better for this deck, it's just that I just happen to go second a lot, I guess. So we just pick up Aenea, Friends Forever, and Mulligan, pretty decent cards to pick up here. Although against Haven, maybe it's a bit questionable. We can consider using Roly-Poly to lock Limonia to deny them turn 6 NAM depending on how the game goes, but we shall see. My opponent drops the pre-cant here, which we definitely want to be able to answer, so we'll just drop Jack Shovel to sort of contest the board. You don't really need Jack Shovel's evil point in this deck since you're not super desperate for shadows or anything. Go ahead and accelerate the Mecha Wing here to I guess continue to put pressure on board. We generally want to be able to clear whatever Machina followers they play on this turn because we don't want them to get two Salvation X Limonias off their turn. Unfortunately, we do fail in that regard here, but since they're going first anyway, that NAM's gonna be on turn 6 by default, regardless of how many Salvation X Limonias they generate, so it's not the worst outcome ever, I guess. They will be able to clear my Aenea here, which is very unfortunate. At this point in time, you might be looking at the seek bar and realizing that somehow this video is still gonna be very long, and it's because this game ends up being very long, which you will see in a moment. It's very rare and very fulfilling when you get to play a long and like a difficult game in this meta of like super overpowered cards, but you know, I guess that's what we're here for. Okay, evolve the Roly-Poly here just to protect our Jack Shovel, who can hopefully poke my opponent in the face or just make good use of the Bane. Either one works really. Obviously, ideally we want to summon Aenea off the spell, but in this case Roly-Poly was actually slightly better maybe. My opponent will play a slower game, either they don't have the god or they just want to get Elana's Prayer on board. Either one makes sense honestly, because the prayer is Elana's Prayer is very valuable in longer matchups for their deck because they want to be able to rebuild their board after we clear it. We go ahead and use the enhanced Stark Rave to save our evil point to clear that board while sending out a bunch of followers to hopefully try to punish them for going for a cheap god here, but they don't play the NAM here, they just go ahead and drop Vice, which I guess is fine since they have Elana's Prayer on board as well. They will be able to buff their board here even without having to rely on Robo Whip Reverend, which is slightly unfortunate for us. You can see they go ahead and just pop off here with a lot of buffs. And they will hide their Vice behind their ward here, which is slightly annoying. We have a lot of ways to clear it though, so we're not super worried. In this case, we go for a Nightmare Devourer to just apply some pressure on the board in the meantime. Hopefully they spent a lot of their resources last turn and they won't be able to come back. Also hold on to Shinobu because her Union Burst is not negligible in this matchup. And then we just finish off with Mecha Wing to make some hand space. You can see we have a Colossal Scarlet in hand, which is not ideal. We definitely want them to our board clear to stay in the deck as long as possible in these kinds of matchups. Okay, my opponent is gonna go wide here with their NAM, and they will heal themselves as well, which is very annoying. And they have another NAM in hand, which they will fuse as well. So at this point, I do have quite a few options. I think in hindsight, going Colossal Scarlet is probably the best play here because we don't have a lot of Colossal Scarlets left in deck, and we definitely want to be able to summon Colossal Scarlet off our what's his face? He Who Wants Rock. So that's, I think going Shinobu here probably was a bit of a mistake. I was just trying to clear the NAM as efficiently as possible. I think Scarlet Evo trade here, trade the Nightmare Devourer here, and just hit face is probably the best play. It does spend my Evo point, but I think getting the Colossal Scarlet in the reanimate pool is very important for this matchup. So probably a mistake there. So you can get mad at me there, and you'll see this. I do get punished for this pretty badly late in the next turn. We go ahead and just hit them in the face. They're down to 7, which is quite low, but without Shuten Doji, we're still very far from lethal, so it doesn't really matter that much. My opponent drops the second NAM, and they pick up the Robo with Reverend as well, and then the Vice Death Grip as well, which is very scary. And then they go ahead and drop the Iron Knuckle Nun, so they are going for the standard combo that this deck likes to do. We go Salvation X Limona here, another Iron Knuckle Nun. And this time they do just buff their board by healing their face. They have Traveler's Respite as well, which is very scary. And I believe another Traveler's Respite to buff their board even more. And then they do fuse into Justine as well. So this is where the game gets real. Of course, we're gonna go ahead and enhance Night of Fleeting Joy here. So we do trade with the Jack Shovel here. You can see that Vice is at 13. I mean, it's at 13. And Colossal Scarlet does 4. So if I had one more Colossal Scarlet, I could have if I had already played Colossal Scarlet last turn, I could have traded He Who Once Wronged in to summon 2 Colossal Scarlet, which will clear all of their followers except Nature Elf Machinus. Which probably would have been better this turn. We might have taken like... We also have like a 5 damage cut, so even if we let Nature Elf Machinus live, we are only taking 5 damage off of it anyway, so... You can see my misplay last turn punishing me, but... In this case, we do trade just to get rid of at least the Robo Reverend to make sure that we don't take too much damage. My opponent has a bunch of Salvation X Limonias, and they do pick up the Aegis there as well. They do have Vice to sort of rush their followers to clear my followers as well, which is very annoying, of course. And they will drop Justine as well. I don't believe it has Drain, so they won't get a heal off of that. And they drop the Hoverboard Mercenary, which will immediately become Salvation X Limonia. And you can see that there's counting something in their hand. And they do like spend their time trading, which is very good for us. And they drop the Aegis as well. So we do take a little bit of damage here, which is not too bad. We do have a ton of Fleeting Joys though, so... As you can see, our resources are very depleted because we ended up drawing a lot of our good cards already, so... Our Enhanced 9s are quite weak now, but we just go ahead and put our War as well as put out the damage shield to minimize damage coming to our face. Our goal here is just to make it so Legendary Skeleton can get a nice hit in on this Nature Elf Machinus to clear it. And then for as far as Heavenly Aegis goes, once we deplete their resources, we should be able to just stall them out to deck out. They're only at 6 cards. And that's actually what I'm going for. I'm just going for a deck out win here. Here, Shuten Doji off the top, we just go ahead and evolve that to get a Bane, I guess, to clear their Nature Elf Machinus. We can save Raid Legendary Skeleton later on, but we need something cheaper. Like for example, Scarlet with Legendary Skeleton. And then we go ahead and clear Robo with Reverend to deny them buffs. At this point, we just need to keep our wards on board so that Aegis can't come to our face. And we do manage to protect our face here. If my opponent had like one more thing to clear my Fox, then I may be in trouble, but thankfully they didn't. So we go ahead and play Friends for Friends Forever so we can reanimate a bunch of stuff. We'll pick out Roly-Poly, which is definitely very good here. And go ahead and use the Legendary Skeleton and clear the Alana. And then we just drop Fleeting Joy here. The reason why I do drop Fleeting Joy here, even though it's unlikely they can even hit my face this turn, is because next turn I can probably look to drop Zeras and Ginsetsu, so I should be completely fine next turn. We should be able to heal well out of range of Aegis. So this is probably the last time I actually need Fleeting Joy, so to prevent some kind of accidents from happening that suddenly they manage to kill me, just go ahead and drop the Fleeting Joy here. It's just to be safe, I guess. My opponent does trade into Roly-Poly, and they do have Robo Whip Reverend here as well as the Falcon, which will be able to clear my wards, which I guess is fine for them. We do go ahead and drop the Ceres here, and thanks to Evolving Shooten Doji, Ceres does have Storm, so we can use her to clear their followers. And then use Ginsetsu for more wards to protect ourselves from Aegis here, and we will start healing out of their range with Ceres as well, so that's very strong. And I think they more or less realize that they don't have ways to win anymore. If it's not this turn, it's like next turn, somewhere around there, so they'll probably concede soon, but I guess we can watch them try to play it out. We do manage to save our wards here. Our priority is to survive. We don't care about killing them anymore, so go ahead and get rid of their follower, and then we can play Aenea as well to summon another more ward to seal their fate. They shouldn't have ways to get through Roly-Poly at this point in the game, so we are fine. My opponent plays Confectionery, realizes they have nothing and just concedes. So those are all the games I have for you today. Ended up being quite long today because of that last game, but it was a super fun game that I played and I really wanted to show it, and hopefully you enjoyed watching it as well. It's a nice breath of fresh air from the very explosive decks that exist in this meta with like Aenea, Blood and Dragon. So yeah, hopefully it gives you some idea of how this deck works if you want to play it yourself, and maybe you got to see how there is some flexibility in gameplay when it comes to this deck, whether it's for a tempo based or a control based approach. You can try this deck if you want, of course, but just note that it's super expensive. Every card besides Guild is a legendary or silver or gold, and there's a lot of legends in this deck, so I wouldn't really recommend crafting it if you don't have most of these cards, unless you really just don't care about saving vials for anything, which pretty reasonable since World's Beyond's coming next month anyway, so yeah, who cares, right? Yeah. Anyway, that's it for today. See you next time. Bye bye.